Here this evening, former President Jacob Zuma has been placed on medical parole. The Correctional Services Department says this was based on a medical report it had received. Zuma had been sentenced to 15 months behind bars for contempt of court. This was after he'd refused a constitutional court order for him to appear before the state capture inquiry. He'll now be completing the rest of his sentence under community correction. Now, this means is that he must comply with a specific set of conditions and will be subject to supervision until his sentence expires. The department says medical parole can only be revoked if the offender does not comply with these conditions. So for more on the story now, I am joined by Jacob Zuma Foundation's Mzanele Manyi. Mr. Manyi, always a pleasure speaking to you. Welcome to South Africa Tonight. Let's talk a little bit about the state of Mr. Zuma. How is he feeling? What is his condition like?
Hi there, Faith. Can you hear me? So
yes, I've got you loud and clear. No, okay. You're all good.
Right. Firstly, good evening to you and your viewers. Now, President Zuma is still coping with the situation. Indeed, we welcome this development that have just happened. In fact, I think it's an indication that there's some humaneness in the system. So indeed, we welcome what has just happened. As we speak here and now, we're still in hospital. Doctors must still make an assessment of when exactly can he go to his place.
Yeah. What has been his reaction to the news of having been granted medical parole? I'm sure that he must be relieved somewhat.
No, indeed, he is relieved, obviously, because at least he gets to see his family and everybody else and all of that, particularly because we continue to maintain the position that has been there in a manner that is not, in our view, in line with the Constitution. We continue to hold the view that him being incarcerated without trial is a travesty of justice. We continue to say the fact that he was not able to mitigate his sentence is still an issue for us. But right now, the focus now is on the new development, and welcome this new development.
I just want you to bring us into your confidence here, Mzanele, because, you know, under the Correctional Services Department statement that was released, this is what they said, and I want your mind on this. Apart from being terminally ill and physically incapacitated, inmates suffering from an illness that severely limits their daily activity or self-care can also be considered for medical parole. So when we're saying that he is, you know, in good spirits with this, how sick is he?
Yeah, look, I think that is a call that gets made by doctors. You see, for us lay people, when we look at each other, we think we're all fine until somebody tells you that he's got cholesterol, he's got this and that, high blood pressure. But when you're talking to a person, you hardly see that. So I think that's the situation that we have. And I think the best people to speak here are medical people. And what is important here is that this is a view by the parole board, which is comprised of not just one team of doctors. This is a huge team of doctors, different teams, one from correctional services and one also from SA military. So indeed, if you have those two medical fundis on both sides saying the same thing, it must mean that the situation is as they describe it.
Yeah, but I'm sure you would appreciate the fact that medical parole does not just get granted to somebody with high blood pressure, that there must be severe mitigating factors to one being granted medical parole. So in this case, are you worried as the Jacob Zuma Foundation about the state of the former president's health?
It continues to be a concern indeed. In fact, we as much as we welcome this development, but welcome it with mixed feelings as well, because it's a confirmation of the precariousness of the situation of the medical condition that President Zuma is facing. For a person to qualify for this, it's an indication of something quite serious that he's dealing with.
Yeah, and not to, you know, go around the rumor mill, because it's a lot of things for us to make speculations. It's a different thing for us to speak to you directly about this matter. Did he indeed refuse to, you know, have independent medical professionals check him out, especially from the, you know, from the prosecution side? I mean, from what we understand, what's been going around in the media is that he did not allow other medical practitioners to actually examine him, that he just followed from the military side. He said yes. From the doctors, as you said, from correctional services, he said yes. But independent, not so much. Is that so? And what was the reason behind this?
Two things. One, if anybody would have done that, it would have been the NPA. So the best people to respond to a question in terms of that is NPA. But if it has happened, there are two reasons why we think that if President Zuma has refused, he would have done the right thing. The first issue is that a right to be examined, for you to be examined, you have to give consent as to a Section 12 of the Constitution is very clear on this matter. So if President Zuma refused with his consent, he would have been within his right to refuse. That's the first thing. Secondly, in terms of the court order, it was way premature for NPA to be going in dark corners here, trying to examine President Zuma, because the order was very clear that first there must be a medical report submitted and it must be tabled in court. Now, once it's tabled in court, the NPA had a duty to express their attitude on that medical report. Thereafter, a decision can be taken. The court was very fair. It said, if necessary. So therefore, the NPA had to make a case whether is it really necessary for them to do this, because one of the other things that was also provided for was that even the doctor there had to come and give a medical account over and above the medical report. So all of those things had to be if necessary. So up until you make the case of if necessary, why do you go behind the scenes and try to be examining President Zuma?
Are you privy to the conditions of his parole? So, this statement, right, from Correctional Services Department was specifying specifically that actually he must comply with specific set of conditions. Are you aware of what those conditions are when they say a specific set of conditions?
Yeah, look, I beg your pardon. This is what the lawyers of His Excellency President Zuma are going to be delving their attention into. They'll be looking into that, look at the fairness of whatever conditions are there. So as we speak here and now, the foundation has not even seen anything more than the statement that has been issued. So those details, those conditions and everything else would have been given, assumingly, to the lawyers of President Zuma. So we will take guidance from them in due course.
All right. Now, obviously, this is just but one side, right? So he's now released on medical parole, the former head of state. But this does not necessarily mean it is the end of the court proceedings in and out of court. We know that there's still that major court proceeding when it comes to the arms deal and the like that is around the corner. In your opinion, as the Jacob Zuma Foundation, is he fit to be standing trial or to be going through this trial procedure? Because just because he's released on medical parole for one, that's just but one of the case, right, for contempt of court. There's still the other issue here of the arms deal that is waiting for him. Is he healthy enough to be even standing trial?
One of the skills that the foundation unfortunately lacks is medical skills. So we're not in a position to pronounce in terms of definitely to respond to your answer, to your question, sorry. But the medical people will respond to that. That assessment will be made and the pronouncement will be made at the right time.
Yeah, but I'm sure, obviously, Mr. Manyi, as you're looking at it, right, as the foundation, you don't have to be a doctor to say, listen, this guy is actually not well enough to do this, or we are concerned that with the court trial that is still, right, in the works, that he may not necessarily be fit enough to do so. Surely you are well within your rights to express your concern regarding the other legal matters and the other legal battles that he's still yet to fight, isn't it?
No, you are wrong. This is a medical issue. This is a legal matter. Whatever you pronounce, you must give reference, must back it up. If we say he's not well or he's well, the question is, on what authority are you speaking on? So you can't just speak because you can. You must rely on some solid authority for whatever pronouncement you make. So up until the doctors speak, it doesn't matter how well he looks when you look at him. It really doesn't matter. What matters is what are the doctors saying, because they don't just see through the naked eye. They've got tests that they've run. They've got things that sometimes something is going to show a bit later, but they've got tests to show that this thing is actually, if not attended to, will grow at an exponential scale, and therefore it's better to take a particular action as it were. So I think let's respect the profession of doctors. They don't go into university for 7 years for nothing.
Yeah, but we also respect the professional spokespeople. But Mr. Manyi, before I let you go, let's talk a little bit about when we're expecting the former head of state to be reunited with his family. When can we expect him at home?
We hope the sooner the better, as it were, but again, that is a pronouncement that we made again by doctors, where even if they would say tonight, we would celebrate and so on and start slaughtering cows and so on to welcome him back and all of that. That is going to happen. But we're waiting for the medical people to make that pronouncement. So at this point, he's still in the hospital. That pronouncement has not been made. If we are lucky, he's out tomorrow. If we are lucky, tomorrow or Tuesday, whatever, we actually don't know. It will be guesswork, but we're hoping for the best.
Mzanele Manyi, we'll leave it there for this evening. Thank you so much for your time at the Jacob Zuma's Foundation. Mzanele Manyi giving us the latest there on former President Jacob Zuma. As you've heard, he's now been released on medical parole.